Hello, my sons. So, Pacmanworld 2. That was a game that I actually only played in a Ronald McDonald house while I was frequently getting surgeries when I was younger. So I only remember bits and pieces here and there because of the anesthesia, the painkillers and stuff. But I remember it being a really fun game, and even though I've had a total of 9+ eye surgeries to try and look like everyone else, I actually don't remember a lot from this game, so it's going to be very interesting to go back to this in a sense, but also look at it with a fresh new coat of paint, a new lens, and of course, a heightened sense of how I see video games. But please stay tuned towards the end, as there is a small announcement that I would just like you guys to listen to. So, this is
Pacmanworld 2 Repac.
Did that thing just talk?
I guess no more hacky sack with the title screen. So I guess we'll start off with the fact that the original Pacmanworld 2 did not have voice acting for Pac-Man. Only the ghosts and Professor Pac really had that. Though originally our Pac-tagonist did not actually have a voice in Pacmanworld 2 originally, the follow-up Pacmanworld 3 did. And honestly, it's really interesting to see that it's the same guy.
What do you mean he's the same voice as Thomas the Tank Engine?
The game starts off with the ghost Inky, Blinky, and Clyde sneaking around Pac-Land, stealing the golden fruit. Unknowingly, this awakens an ancient evil with the mighty ghost warrior dubbed Spooky.
Wait. Seriously?
Yeah, Spooky the ghost. Which, well, it's goofy, that's for sure, and fits Pac-Man's aesthetic, so I guess that's fine. Just did not expect that. The golden fruit were made by a Pac wizard and used by a Pac knight, so legend says. A very generic storytelling from the original game that kind of carried over. I wish, though, that there was like a game where maybe Pac Land was desolate and you had to gather the 5 remaining healthy fruit and turn them into gold fruit, or something like that. And then Pac Knight would be the one to get them.
Yeah, that's actually one of the few things that I remember from the original that I kind of really wanted to, like, you know, maybe a prequel game a la, like, Star Wars or something. Just, I don't know, like a small story, something, right? That's, like, one thing that I do remember. I don't know. I mean, it's small and probably irrelevant to this game, but hey, you know what? A guy can dream.
So you start off in a grassland area, and the first level is a tutorial named The Bare Basics.
Ah! And I thought I was the only one telling jokes here.
Let's run down the moves real quick again. You have the same ones from the first game. You have the butt bounce. But this time, if you time it right, you can actually get a super butt bounce. This was sort of in the first Pacmanworld Repac. It was just a one-time item that you barely used. I really like it here more, though, because you can time it, and it's consistent, and on top of that, it's skill-based. So timing it right actually has a purpose here, though, whereas the first one, it just kind of was an item. This gives it an area of effect to stun enemies. Other than that, you can get a good flow with it, just like the first game. Kind of like another certain character. It's used to hit switches and, of course, help defeat enemies, making it versatile in both attack and utility. So, you know, overall, good move. But there's also this other move where you kind of scuttle in the air, and of course, this is definitely not from another character. Honestly, I kind of forgot I had this until the, like, end of the game, so, yeah, alright, moving on. You also have the rev roll, which has a lot more momentum on the ground and movement, which, hey, you really aren't beating those allegations now, are you? Oh, sorry, it doesn't have momentum in the air unless you use one of the game's ramps. Certain switches open pathways or unlock power-ups, but the best one to me is the ones where you get a bunch of Pac dots and, of course, get a cinematic view of the area. And Pac-Man, you can kind of twist around if you really wanted to, moving the stick. I don't know why you would want to do this. I don't know why this was programmed, but hey, it's fun.
Yeah, actually, he also opens his mouth this time when he eats the Pac dots. So that's pretty good. In Repac, though, he didn't actually open his mouth when he decided to eat those Pac dots. I think it's a small detail that not many people picked up on or even cared about. But hey, could you imagine if I took this power pellet and just... Is it going in yet? Is it going in yet?
Now the power pellet comes back, making Mega Pac-Man, which, again, in some instances, this power-up is more annoying for me. For example, later on, you get it in an area that doesn't feel all that great just because the area you use it in seems to be a little small in terms of the maze size, which, okay, yeah, it's fine, but if you were doing this as normal Pac-Man, I felt like it would be a lot easier. Again, I would have liked the option here. It's more so because of the pack maze, and it's hard to see where you land because of how large your size is, and the width of the platforms just isn't big enough for you to kind of land properly. Again, I still wish I had more of an option to just be normal Pac-Man. Actually, this was a thing in the original too, and that's kind of why I miss it. But hey, I got some power pellets just like Pac-Man.
I'm sure that these are going to be an explosive pre-workout.
Speaking of something that wasn't from the original game, but was in the remake of Pacmanworld, yeah, the throwing dots mechanic is actually back and well. I should also mention that a lot of the controls were switched. This one actually is mapped to the east button, or I guess if you're on PlayStation Circle. Also, in some instances, they actually turn into actual bombs as well.
What do you mean if I hold it
Next move is the aerial kick, which returns from the original game, and thankfully, there are some quality of life changes along with this. See, the fruit now can magnetize to you after you open a crate using the kick, which instead of having to jump for it again in one go, you no longer need to collect the pack dots as well to get 100% in a level. It's also really nice that the fruit is kept track, as the original didn't have that as well. Now, that being said, there are time trials, which, yeah, we'll get into in a little bit, but I'm not really feeling them. Even though this game has missions where you're encouraged to play more than once on a single level, it just depends on how you see it. This could either be a good thing or a bad thing. Right now, I'm somewhere in the middle of this, but by the end of this, I'll probably have a definitive answer. The last power-up returning from the first game is the metal pellet, which, yeah, in the first game it allows you to go underwater and you're weighted and it gets collectibles, which, okay, sure, yeah, that's fine. Here, though, it has a lot more versatile uses. Back to that in a sec. The rest of Paradise Meadows is kind of a breeze, fun and easy just so that you get used to the controls. You still have the butt bounce trampolines, the rev pads, and you use your rev dash to progress through the level using these pads. But what really shocked me was the use of the shrink pellet. Yeah, this was in the original Pacmanworld 2 as well, but I only ever encountered it one time in the snow level, which you'll see in a bit. But honestly, this surprised me because, well, I mean, you can now use it to get goodies and other things, and actually is more of a power-up to grab things in a level. So honestly, good on them. There are returning and new enemies, of course, but they end up just being feet fodder because they don't really take much to go down. And sure, some have unique abilities, but other than that, I mean, it's just a normal platformer kind of thing. After all, this platformer is indeed for kids.
Right?
Well, now we get to the first boss of the area, which finally they named this ghost right. I noticed this in the original. He was actually incorrectly named, which is also weird because the original had an arcade machine with the ghost properly named, so it's not like they couldn't even check this either. Killer Frog was a unique boss in the original, and I think this was kind of an interesting take, seeing as now the second phase allows him to go golden with the golden fruit from Spooky.
Yeah, I still can't believe that's his name.
After that, the fruit returns to the tree, and of course this happens with the other fruits as well. The cycle repeats until the final boss. So the next area is Treetops, the forest area, which was one of the areas I recall most as a kid, bouncing on these trampolines to progress through the level. You use your metal power-up in a unique way this time, not being affected by buzzsaws, flames, and such in order to progress through the level. The power-up itself is very weird being in the tree area because now you're weighted, and yeah, it's a little hard to do certain platforms, so I recommend doing butt bounces. I will say this is way more versatile than anything a certain plumber has done with the thing, but hey, it makes it more interesting to get all the fruit in the level and more fun. When it comes to platforming in this game, the fruits give you unique rewards, which at the end of the level, look, they're not the best rewards, but I'll talk about them in a bit, as I have a lot to say about it, but this kicks me right in the nostalgia, thinking of all the times I had to go into surgery, being nervous and stuff, because my eye would be cut open. This game really calmed my nerves prior to, and I'm truly grateful for that. One of the main reasons I pushed the Zelda Marathon and other games back was because I really felt a connection to this game, and I wanted to kind of talk about it. Honestly, my time in the medical industry as a patient has been anything but pleasant, so this was one of the few times where it actually mattered to me the most, and I really thank Namco for this. It's really dumb to thank a gaming company for making money off a thing, but hey, a lesson I can give to you, my sons, is that be grateful where you can, and of course look for the positive in everything. Now, with that being said, I don't really recall the original levels taking this long. My gosh, especially for the fire area, that one I do recall being long, but man, these are a little too expansive. I don't remember them being this long. Maybe they added a few things. I'm not sure. I mean, that could also be the anesthesia talking, though. The fruit in this game, man, they are in some weird spots. Very tricky sometimes, and sometimes I'll leave a level not knowing how I missed or didn't get a single fruit. I'm glad that it keeps track, but there's no way to track it in the level. I mean, fruit are the only collectibles in the levels, so I guess it's not that bad.
But hey, it's about time I talk about those missions.
Some of them are level specific or some are just point based. I think this is a new, interesting way. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know, it's a bit awkward and I don't really like replaying levels over and over again. Which, yeah, I get that's part of 3D platformers, but I don't know. When it comes to Pac-Man, I really want to be able to just run through once or maybe twice. Sometimes you have to do it 3 or 4 times depending if you miss something or not. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but hey, after the 3 levels, it's now time for a boss. And,
What happened?
oh my gosh, they actually did something right here. Turns out, yeah, all of the bosses are now unique, which I'm loving this. Going forward, obviously, but in the past, they were just mecha versions of the ghost that you would rev roll in, and that's pretty much it. I'm kind of floored, actually. They put a lot more work into this than some of the other remakes as of recently. Now is a good time as ever to talk about the voice acting for the ghosts here. I did mention this before, but they all sound like they're from... Yeah, this kind of goes for all of the ghosts. I don't know why, but hey, at least Pac-Man's pretty chill. I love how he's nonchalant and kind of easygoing about things. Like, yeah, you want to kill me, but you know what? It's cool. You could just give me the fruit and we'll let bygones be bygones.
Inky, give the fruit back and I'll let you off the hook. No questions asked. What do you say? No!
Aw, he's like Jesus. He forgives the dead.
I don't know, I just find it adorable that Pac-Man's personality is really shining here with that dopey smile. But other than that, yeah, no, the boss fight was pretty good, pretty unique, and honestly, just different. I can't really do anything because I don't have anything to compare it to. It's completely new, so good on Namco Bandai. Before the snowy area, you actually are introduced to Pac Ranger, who helps you throughout the whole thing, which, yeah, it kind of impresses me that they gave this character a lot more screen time before the other characters in and out of the village. It just didn't really happen all that much. I think Pac Professor was the only one to actually get a voice acting role and screen time in the original. I don't remember seeing Pac Ranger around. Again, could be the anesthesia talking, also could be the fact that I didn't actually own a copy outside of the one I played in the children's hospital. Either that or he just didn't really leave that much of an impact on me as a kid. But the snowy area is unique, also having that small power pellet I was talking about before used here, which is kind of nice. But what really is important, one, is the graphics. It is beautiful here, and it's nice to see everything's updated. However, you cannot use the rev roll and you cannot butt bounce. So even though the levels look superb, the ice physics really are something here that will annoy pretty much anyone. But again, that's the ice world. What did you expect? You can't rev roll, you can't butt bounce, but hey, at least there's a skating section, which, yeah, actually really cool. The Pac Ranger gives you the skates, tells you to go figure it out, and you do. So good on the game for giving some exposition to these skates. Also, probably the only unique enemy to me in this game is the Ram, which, yeah, there are other enemies that require power-ups to defeat, but this one actually utilizes your moveset. You have to rev into him, stun him, and then butt bounce him, seeing as he's tough because of his horns. Also, these enemies that actually throw bombs at you that you have to hit back, which alludes to the boss coming up, but I don't know, I think this is a unique enemy too. Maybe these are the only 2 enemies in this game that I really kind of feel stand out to me. Other than that, the diversity of enemies is very slim pickings here. But back to that skating section, that Pac Ranger gives you the skates, you have to learn quickly on how to use, move, so on and so forth, and honestly, it just feels great here. I don't really have any complaints, only praise that it actually feels really good, and that's pretty much it. Now the runaway section, Pinky tries to get you to be avalanched in using bombs and dynamite throughout the level, and of course the ghosts try and stop you in other levels, but this gimmick really kind of just stood out to me because Pinky kind of makes things a little awkward. She apparently has feelings for you in some way, but Pac-Man is oblivious to that. Also, it's definitely not like he's a married man anymore. At Games made sure of that.
Seriously? At Games can lick the brownest part of my...
Though her anger implies about her feelings, it makes me wonder, is this the ghost of Miss Pac-Man?
You know what? I'm making that my own headcanon now.
Anyway, the boss fight is a big jump in difficulty. Once you get down the slope for this bear, yeah, the first bit of the boss fight is fine, but once you get underneath that ice rubble, man, it kicks up in difficulty. Way more than any of the original bosses ever did, in my opinion, at least as far as I can remember. Even though I found the chase section to be a little weird leading up to the boss, this was something I did not expect. I'd rather the weird, zany build-up rather than this insane boss fight. The second phase of this golden boss just amps up the difficulty a lot more than I expected.
I thought this game was meant for kids!
Anyway, on to the volcano world now, in the first area, which, yeah, this kind of weirds me out. I don't know where else to put this, but my first instinct in 3D platformers isn't to turn around and look for goodies, which I hate when any and all other 3D platformers do this, just because I don't like that. Like, if you start me off somewhere in a level, I expect that to be my starting point. Not, oh, here's your starting point, but there are goodies if you turn around. I get the idea of why some developers would do this, as it's kind of like a cheeky little reward, but I don't know, I just kind of hate this, and this has nothing to do with the remake, more of just how I see game design. Other than that, though, Namco shoved an enemy we're all familiar with. Yeah, the Pukas. They blow up and pop and give Pac-Man a little bit of damage, which is really nice. I think it was super cool and worth noticing, as this was more of a very subtle reference and not so much of just like a, oh, in-your-face Galaga boss like in the original. People can easily walk by these little guys and not realize that they're from Dig Dug, and I think that's very important to note here. Another cool thing in this world is that the metal pellet also acts as a way to walk across lava and go through fire and such. Obviously, it's more than just like that basic run-of-the-mill power-up. Now you can use lava geysers as platforming, which is cool. Also, I should mention there are some enemies here that are specific when it comes to taking them down. You need the metal power, which, okay, yeah, that's kind of cool. I just prefer enemies that actually are taken down with the moves that are given by the basics of the player rather than just a power-up. Also, this area is where I started to lose lives, but thankfully lives are still abundant here, so it didn't really take me too long. And that being said, for $30, there's actually a lot of gain here, so I really shouldn't be complaining as much as I have been. I'm just trying to be honest and critical with my opinion. Just because I dislike one or two things doesn't mean the overall experience has been bad. No, it's actually been very great. Now, time for the boss.
Before I say anything, just know I mean it with love.
So, Blinky is probably one of the hardest bosses in the game, which he suffers from too much shit on the screen syndrome. There are fireballs, spider webs, music notes, actual spiders, and later down the line, he actually just shoots you. So, I get that this boss is done without, much hassle in the original, seeing as you just have to kind of rev roll into him, but like, this here is just way, way more difficult. I do love that there are new bosses here. I just think this is a little overstimulating, especially for a game meant for kids. It's starting to seem like this is actually just meant for people who played the original in the first place and want that extra layer of challenge. But hey, remember when I said Pac-Man was a nonchalant dude and just didn't really care that much and was totally chill? Yeah, here's Blinky saying he's gonna end him, and Pac-Man totally being like, yeah, go for it, kill me. It's so funny that he's going with the musical crowd here.
Y'all ready for an encore?
Yeah!
All right, it's time to redline this bad boy. Let's see if you can keep up.
Either he's really enjoying the concert or he really just wants to test Blinky like, yeah, go for it, try me, I dare you. Nah, I'm just kidding. I don't think he's that confrontational. I genuinely think he's just nice to the ghosts just because of their long history. But either way, their interactions are more run-of-the-mill cartoon than scary, which honestly is kind of nice and wholesome. It's very nice to see this. Now with that out of the way,
I seriously hate the scuba section.
no, seriously, screw these sharks. I hate underwater levels. I don't even care that the professor gives you these little scuba things to just go under. No, I hate it. I hate all of it. Also, it controls stupid as well. Like, why are the right bumpers the basis for going up and down here? I feel like there was a better way of programming this. Before the boss, Professor Pac lets you use the submarine, which he gave you the flippers beforehand, but I don't know why he did that if he knew that there was a whole submarine. Even if the ghosts are now being sent over by Spooky, it still doesn't make sense because the submarine would have been faster in the first place. Especially if he knew he was gonna be done with it very soon, it just seems like he was a bit hasty to just give him flippers and say, go for it. Like, story-wise, this is something he should have just waited for regardless. Speaking of weird oddities, the Pac Professor, for whatever reason, mentions the boss of the Mega Whale, and Pac-Man is more surprised that it's been resurrected. Which, again, like, why? You've never fought this before. You've never even heard of it until this point, and you didn't play against him in the original game, so what gives? Like, what do you mean you heard a rumor that it sunk a while ago? But, like, how long, when, and why? Like, you never fought this before, so, like, seriously, what What am I missing here?
So am I crazy, or just has no one mentioned this yet?
I must be, because this boss is so long. My gosh, look, I get it. The animations themselves, they take a while, yada, 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 but it just goes downhill from here. It's not like the boss itself is hard. It just takes so long because it takes so much time to transition from one section to the other, and it's just too much. I spent more time here than I'd like to admit. Now that you're back on Ghost Island, though, from the first game, there's no same locations from before, from Pacmanworld 1 Repac. I think the haunted area still makes sense being the, quote, last main area of Pac-Man, but oh my goodness, this maze area sucks, and thankfully you can zoom in and out. Sadly, I didn't notice this until the last minute, so keep that in mind.
Alright, I need your help, guys, because I feel like I'm going crazy. There's a skating section in this set of levels where you grind on rails, you wall run, and there are grinding corkscrews. But like, what other video game character that's a primary color already does this at a fast pace?
Now, the boss leading up to this area is this tree that takes over Pac-Land and prevents you from moving forward, only using his powers to prevent you from progressing, needing the power of the golden fruit to subdue him. Now that you're at the tree, though, this tree's boss name is Wormwood?
Well, it's not the biblical end of the world sense, but there is a cool herb with the same name.
Even though he takes over Pac-Land like an end-of-the-world boss, there's actually a real-world herb for this called Wormwood.
For legal purposes, I am not a doctor, but that being said, I'd love to go to school to be a naturopathic doctor. Wormwood is a bitter herb that's anti-parasitic and anti-cancer. That second one's pretty important. Say, for example, you have kidney cancer. Well, guess what has to pass through your kidneys if you drink some wormwood tea? Oh, that's right, the wormwood tea. Versus chemotherapy, where, let's just say, chemotherapy, to give you the spark notes of that, it essentially just microwaves your kidneys, which it doesn't distinguish between the good cells and bad cells. So your body essentially has to fight off not only the cancer, but the chemotherapy, versus the opposite, where you're just drinking wormwood tea. Now, each of them, of course, has varying side effects, and it's up to you to choose how you do medicine. That being said, I will also say, in Europe, for parasite cleanses, wormwood is actually one of the things you can get accessible over the counter. It's very interesting to have like an outside Western view of things, and if you look into things, it's very interesting. That's just me though, and if you want to subscribe to a point where maybe I can become a naturopathic doctor, I'd like to, but that's just me personally. Anyway, guys, that's your health tip for this video, and yeah, let's get on with the show.
Now, the boss itself really kind of just sucks. Look, it's nice that he got a nice little section here, but you kind of just get the Mega Pac-Man thing, eat the ghost, and then boom, pop his pimples. Also, the build-up to this boss actually has that maze section I was talking about earlier with the Mega Pac-Man and how it's kind of just not really that great. Like, it's a little hard to see where I land, which, okay, fine, I get it. He's big and he can just, roam around, but I don't know, I just didn't like it. It made me feel uneasy. Also, he is very dramatic at the end of this once you beat him.
Pac-Land is doomed! I leave the rest to you, Spooky.
Okay.
Now, all that's left to deal with is Spooky. You go through 3 phases of the fight, each one getting more difficult than the last. The first one, you kind of just run up and hit him. A few attacks, fairly easy. He summons a few enemies and does a few other attacks. It's not really that difficult. And the only difficult part after that is the second stage, which would be this free roam camera, where you kind of have to actually use the stick to keep up with Spooky, just because, well, he's moving up very fast. And those clones, yeah, I mean, you could tell which is which based on the pack insignia, but I don't know, he just moves so dang fast. It's hard to catch up with him, especially with the camera. And lastly is his giant form, where he uses the rest of the golden fruit to power himself up to become giant. Now, the problem here is that these platforms that raise up are very, very quick to fall and crumble, which isn't bad. Just a bump up in difficulty is all. This is a boss fight that if you die, you're gonna feel like it was your fault. His interesting dialogue, though, is really weird. Yeah, he has it like other bosses, but unlike the ghost, he wasn't friendly with Spooky or Wormwood. I'm just confused on this one part, though.
You shall pay the price for sealing me under that rotten tree!
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? What do you mean I put you in the tree just before we go to your next phase?
Anyway, the fight is a bit dragged out in my opinion, but, you know, you avoid the electricity by standing in front of the stage where Spooky's at, and you can easily just attack him. I mean, it's not that hard. The third phase isn't as hard as the second one, in my opinion. But you better be prepared with your super butt bounce because you need to perfect that. And of course, if you've been playing this game the entire time, you're a good pro at it at this point. I don't think it's that much of a thing to complain about. But after Pac-Man knocks Spooky out of it, trying to get a hold of the golden fruit as he is running towards it so it doesn't fall off, Spooky catches him off guard. And yeah, no, it looks like Pac-Man actually loses here. And all of a sudden, the golden fruit surround Pac-Man in a very weird way. What is going on here? Wait, why is Pac-Man golden?
Oh, no. You're not beating the allegations this time. I know for a fact that is a supersonic Saiyan form.
You don't even get to use it, which is the most confusing part. Spooky calling it a despicable form also has me confused, as if he's seen it before.
Sorry, let me just check YouTube real quick.
He was in the original, so wait, does Spooky just remember what happened in the original? I'm just so confused here. This time around, though, he just repairs the town. Like, what do you mean? I want a cool power-up with some kind of invincible Pac-Man as a reward. Like, this kind of blows. Sure, everyone is celebrating at the end, but I don't know, it just seems pretty weird. And, wait, what happened to the kids?
Hi, Pac Child Protective Services. Yeah, we have a cosmic negligence on a Mr. Pac-Man.
So, you go through the tree, and oh my Lanta.
Okay. You guys know I love me a good Zelda reference, and of course I love the fact that there's like a Logrule equivalent to Pacworld. That is amazing.
Also, these levels are truly hard. This is actually a point where I used the fairy mode, and yeah, I wanted to talk about it at some point, and oh my gosh. Yeah, this is definitely the kids game part, which it makes it interesting, that's for sure, because sure, you can, you know, tank damage and have an infinite lives, but you could still die and have to reset. So you go back to the past to save your kids, and this is where the origin of Pac Knight began. So I assume you would meet him, this great Pac warrior, after the hard levels. So let's get through them real quick. And yeah, there's one hard level followed by an extra hard boss. So this is kind of the game's boss mode, which is kind of nice. So this is where I tried the fairy mode, and oh my gosh. So yeah, you know how I wanted an invincible Pac-Man as a reward? This is the closest thing to that. It adds extra platforms, infinite lives, health, and so on. So hey, it's not bad, but you still have a high chance of dying if you're in lava or get knocked off or fall into poison or something. So there is a chance of you still dying, but it makes the game so much easier. I like that I unintentionally kind of gave myself the reward as I just did this review because, I mean, yeah, this was the end game part. It's a very nice reward a la Supersonic, we'll say. But I don't know, some people will consider this cheating and others won't. And look, the extra challenge is there if you want, and there are adjustments, but this is hard as heck. All of these bosses are just upgraded versions of their future counterparts. Personally speaking, I feel like this would just take forever for me to beat, not that I couldn't, but at the same time, I think I like the idea of this being my reward of enjoying harder bosses that I can still die to, but I don't know, I just feel like that fairy mode is only for getting the collectibles and or doing the missions or literally anything involving the hard world if you really want to play it. It doesn't actually impede progression on the game for 100% completion, so I think that's fine and an adjustable reward for the player. Whether you choose it to be harder or not is your choice. And look, there is still a genuine challenge to be had here with these stages and these bosses. Now, after beating the past version of Wormwood and the other bosses using the same methods as before in the base game, which, yeah, these weren't in the original game, which, wow, that's kind of cool. I love this new Game Plus mode. It's so unique and a lot more effort than I actually expected in this remake. Honestly, now you get to have the final battle with Spooky.
Wait, is this the first fight? Or the second fight?
Yeah, so surprise, surprise, this is actually a time paradox. You are actually the Pac Knight. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm shocked about this. They took the route that I did not expect just to tie this up in a nice blow. And honestly, it kind of makes sense too, as now I don't need to wonder about the weird story from the beginning we never got to play in the original. That being said, holy crap, this was actually fun. Being invincible and having this giant boss try and take me on. Sure, I might be able to die if I get knocked off or something like that, but this was just really fun. Again, I don't care what you say, it doesn't halt progression, and to be honest, it was more fun to just see him smash me around, and yet nothing happened.
So, personally speaking, I think Fairy Mode is the best part about this game if you want to do a New Game Plus. I think it gives ample reward for the player to, go back, and it's very incentivized if you just want a relaxed time, giving it that kids game aesthetic without it being completely shoved in your face. It's completely optional if you want it. I think Fairy Mode is actually one of the best instances of like a God mode ever given, because you could still die if you're negligent or not, and it gives you opportunity to just, move past levels.
So once you beat him, he gets sealed in the tree again, cursing Pac-Man. And one thing that perplexes me, who voices him? He sounds so familiar. It's been perplexing me this entire time. It's Damon Mills? I know I've heard that name before.
Hello, monkeys!
Yeah, he's actually the new voice actor for Frieza in the video games and the anime, I think, because the voice clip I just used was from the previous voice actor who unfortunately passed away. I think it's just funny that he voices these two very polarizing characters. One is just Space Stalin, and the other one is just, I hate yellow sphere people. Now you might be saying to yourself, well, you saved your kids, now what's there left for the game? Well, there's a few unlockables that are advertised on the back of the box. I mean, I didn't do them, but it's the original Pac-Man, Pac-Attack, and Pac-Mania. But, I feel like something's missing. Just a reminder, At Games killed Miss Pac-Man. Yeah, the original you could get Miss Pac-Man for 180 tokens you got, which, again, is fine. It is a lot of tokens to get in that game, but that's the thing. It's an option. We don't have that here because At Games took that from us. Now the tokens are used for a gachapon machine, which, yeah, honestly, it reuses models, like, everywhere. From the first Pacmanworld Repac to this game to wherever else from this Namco museum that, yeah, I mean, honestly, it's unique. I like it, and don't get me wrong, I am not the biggest fan of reusing a ton of assets, but honestly, it's all cohesive and fine in my opinion. It's not like the worst thing. Reusing assets is fine if done right, and I think it's done right here. If you go back to the hub map and you see all the missions you didn't get to do or all the time trials you didn't do, you can actually unlock costumes, which, play a main part in the open world aspect of this, seeing as it's just the costume for Pac-Man. It's cosmetic and it's really optional, like you don't actually have to go out of your way to do this. Also, the mazes return from the Pacmanworld Repac thing, where it's like they have the 3D world mazes. And I mean, yeah, they're better, sure, but I don't know. Again, this isn't my style of how to play Pac-Man, and maybe I'll do it someday. But for now, I think it's just, if you like it, it's there as a side thing for the end of the game. However, there's just one more thing we have to solve. There's a secret boss fight with a certain someone. Yeah, Talkman, your evil counterpart from the first game. He actually talks, pun entirely intended, voiced by the same dude who voices Frankie from One Piece. Listen, as a One Piece fan, that's really cool.
You could say it's super! I'm in my boxers just like the character. You'd know that if you watch One Piece. Go watch One Piece.
Stop watching my video and go watch One Piece!
Yeah, only One Piece fans are gonna get that. But anyway, it turns out he was invited to your birthday party, but instead of getting the invitation, he decided to use it to wipe his mech suit in the bathroom.
Oh, no, that's fine. I totally understand it. Shoot, that's probably happened to me at least a dozen times. You're fine. No explanation needed. It's an honest mistake. Now, so we're going to go over a few things while the activation license for this, which is incredibly long for a 20-year-old game, plays out. But let's start out with the fact that there's a reversible cover for this. I liked it. It actually reminded me a lot about the reversible cover from, back at the little Ronald McDonald House Children's Hospital place. But the problem is, the back. What is this? I mean, is this the end user license agreement in just different languages? It's so tiny, I can't read it. And then on top of that, I'm already half blind. You really expect me to read this or want to read this? No, give me pretty pictures. I'm sorry. Like, this is... You put the effort for this, but not this? That doesn't make sense. I'm so sorry, Namco, but like... What? Alright, fine. How about just the Switch 2 is a game key card, and the game's already 8 gigabytes? in file size. I mean, maybe a little more if you patched it, but like even then, it's like you could have put the physical thing on the cartridge. It's not like 8 GB cartridges are that ridiculous, but you know what? I get it. It's a $30 game. You didn't want to spend the money because Nintendo, but like, dude, people like owning their games. I'm so sorry that like Nintendo kind of, you know, forced your hand, made you bite the bullet in that sense. But it's still pretty bad that we don't physically have the game on the cartridge. But you know what? That's more of a call it a Nintendo thing, right? So then I guess the last thing is that like if you get enough points again, you can get the key that opens the little chest, but like I didn't in this playthrough, which surprised me. So I don't know if anyone else got that key that opens all the chests to make life easier, but I didn't on this playthrough. Maybe you did, but it's a key. It's the same as the one in the first one, so it just opens things for you and makes your life easier, just like fairy mode. Other than that, I still feel like I'm forgetting something. I can't imagine what I'm forgetting.
Meanwhile...
You two have a lot of explaining to do right now. Hello, my sons. So, this is the first me portion of the video that I am recording, and it's 10:06, so keep that in mind. Don't worry, I have other videos scripted, Tears of the Kingdom, if you couldn't tell, Galaxy 2, and so on. Anyway, but I'm asking you, not for your money, not for you to reach out to Pac-Man of all people, or Namco, I'm just asking for your time. So I can maybe have a couple extra bucks when I'm finally monetized to give the give the Repac trilogy and a console to some kids in the Ronald McDonald House, the same one that I had the luxury of playing Pacmanworld 2 on. I went through a lot of surgeries to try and look like everyone else, and unfortunately it didn't work, but there are kids who are far worse off than I. Some that did not make it to even be able to remotely watch this video. And I think it's important to understand that, because during that time, when I was suffering, those were some of my happiest moments. Can you imagine what it would be like for someone else? Probably not, but it's very important that we all understand that there are things in life that we can't get back. Time, people, so on and so forth. So each moment is precious. And that's why I'm asking you to watch maybe a 10-minute episode of mine, or a 30-minute episode, whatever you feel comfortable with. I humble myself to you guys just because it's important for a man to humble himself, especially if he has an audience. It's also important that I humble myself as someone who isn't the biggest fan of the medical industry for obvious reasons. So, with that in mind, I would just appreciate you guys watching another video or two. And now I'm just going to talk about what my illness is if you guys want to actually watch further. So, my illness is third nerve palsy. Basically, shortly after a routine clinical doctor visit, this started to droop, form, look tumorous, basically. My mother had taken me to the hospital, and unfortunately, I had been diagnosed with third nerve palsy years after. I was diagnosed with other things, but this is the main thing I'd like to talk about. Essentially, there are nerves in my eye that did not get to formulate properly in or out of the womb, and it's a very rare condition. So I only ask that, you know, I know I look differently than everyone else, having 2 eyes and so on. And listen, man, I've been called everything under the book. There's nothing you could say to me I haven't said 6 inches from a mirror. But I've been called Cyclops, One-Eyed Jack, you know, gosh, what's another one? One-Eyed Willie. That was a freak one. I don't know where Willie came from, but sure, you know, the One-Eyed Freak. You name it. It's just the kids are neat. So part of the reason I do put the glasses on, yeah, sure, it's because I can't look at the camera, but also because I get anxious whenever I think people are watching me. But also I know I'm looked down upon if I go like this, usually. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. only ever take the sunglasses off when I really have something important to say, but I also can't look at anyone. It's very hard to look at just straight at the camera. So, thank you guys. And I know this is drawn out, and so on and so forth, but seriously, please, if you could watch another episode or two. I'm not asking for money, and unfortunately, I feel like I'm asking for something much more important. So, if I could humble myself to ask you guys that, I would appreciate it. Anyway, my sons, so, did you enjoy the life lessons? Did you enjoy the humbleness? Did you enjoy maybe the knowledge of, Wormwood? Or did you enjoy the fact that I had a deep emotional connection to a game that I barely remember? Honestly, yeah, that one's probably the coolest part, is like, there is a lot of thing about this game that I did not remember, but hey, that's cool. Alright guys, thank you all so much for watching. I love you guys so much. I'm very appreciative of all of you, and I am blessed to have a wonderful audience. So, I don't have any more to say, honestly. It's like, I don't even have 500 subscribers, but I like that it's starting to grow and I can build this community. And thank you. Just, it's given me a lot of validation for a lot of the things in my life. Okay, cool, bye.